We continue now at the top of Daf Tesvav Amud Aleph Meseches Sukkah. This is Sukkah Daf 15a. The Mishnah says Tikra she'ein oleh ma'aziva. If you have a roof but it has no plaster, Rashi over here says Tikra she'ein oleh ma'aziva. Stam Tikra b'nisarim sheyesh b'hen arba. In other words, the case is where you have a roof with boards. The ceiling is made out of boards of wood that are 4 tefachim wide. And Maziva Ritzpas Tit, again, it has no plaster. It's just the boards of wood. So what can you do in order to make this a kosher sukkah? Rabbi Yehuda says that it's a machlokas Beis Shammai and Beis Hillel. Beis Shammai Omer mefakfek v'notel achas mi bentayim. So Beis Shammai say mefakfek and notel achas mi bentayim, and Rashi over here explains Beis Shammai Omer min bo leishiv tachtel l'shem sukkah. If you want to sit under this roof and have it be a kosher sukkah, mefakfek means soser umananei askol. You have to take apart the ceiling and you have to shake all of them again l'shem the sukkah l'shem tzel. And additionally, you're going to have to take one of the boards out and put real schach there. Now, the Gemara later will explain why it is that you need to do both of these things. Why do you need mefakfek and notel achas mi bentayim? Beis Hillel and Beis Hillel say mefakfek o notel achas mi bentayim. You do either or, either mefakfek or notel achas mi bentayim. Rashi says, you're going to have to shake these around because it has to be made again for the purpose of sukkah. You don't need to put real schach there. This can function as the schach. For Rabbi Yehuda l'taimei, Rashi says Rabbi Yehuda follows his reasoning. To machshir b'nesarim sheyesh bo hendalid l'sakei cheskula v'hainu kerav. Rabbi Yehuda allows boards of wood that are 4 tefachim wide, like Rav says. U'shmuel matarz lo l'kamon b'gemor. Now Shmuel will explain what's going on later on in the Gemara. And Rashi continues, O notel achas mi bentayim, or you can take one out from among them. V'yeino tzarich lefakfek, then you won't need to shake anything around. Devahachi sagi dikasi amalia. This is going to be sufficient because now you're putting in that psal, you're doing an asiyah in terms of making the schach. And the Mishnah continues, Rabbi Meir says, notel achas mi bentayim, the solution only is to take out one from among them and put in real schach. V'yeino mefakfek is not going to be a real solution. Rashi over here says, Rabbi Meir omer notel achas mi bentayim, avalo yefakfek she'ein pikbuk moalo. Taking out, shaking them around is not going to help at all. Rabbi Meir l'taimei davar ein mesachen b'nesarim. Rabbi Meir is the one who was strict before and said you can't use boards of wood as schach. It's only if you're going to put in other schach that it's going to be okay. And the Gemara says, Bishlama Beis Hillel, I understand the reasoning of Beis Hillel. Tamayu misham tasav v'lo min ha'aseh. Their issue with these boards of wood has nothing to do fundamentally with the boards of wood, the type of schach. It's the fact that it wasn't put up for sukkah. Tasav v'lo min ha'aseh. You have to make it for sukkah. So imefakfek avid le maisa. If you're going to move things around l'shem sukkah, then you've done a maisa. It's going to be good. Inotel achas mi bentayim. Similarly, if you take one out and you put in real schach, avid be maisa, that's also going to count as a maisa. Ela Beis Shammai, but according to Beis Shammai, my taimayu, what is their reasoning? Imisham tasav v'lo min ha'aseh. If the issue is tasav v'lo min ha'aseh b'chadasagi, so then it should be like Beis Hillel, either mefakfek or notel achas mi bentayim. You don't need both. Imisham gezeras tikra. Now, if the issue is gezeras tikra, meaning Beis Shammai hold it's a problem, these boards of wood fundamentally, because you're not supposed to use boards of wood like this for schach, because of a gezeras tikra, people won't be able to distinguish between this and a regular roof of their house. So still, benotel achas mi bentayim sagi, even according to that, as long as you take out one and you put in real schach, that should be sufficient. And so the Gemara answers, Liola mishum gezeras tikra. Really, Beis Shammai hold there is a gezeras tikra, so you're going to have to take one out. So why isn't just taking one out sufficient? Here's what Beis Shammai was saying. Afal pisha mefakfek, even though you move things around l'shem sukkah, it's not going to be enough to do that. In ilolo. If you take one out, you put in real schach, that'll work. If not, not. Meaning, really, you only need notel achas mi bentayim. The Mishnah was just saying, if you are mefakfek, that won't do it. You need to have notel achas mi bentayim. But that's really all that you need. But the Gemara continues, if that's the case, if so, ema seifa, let's look at the end of the Mishnah. Rabbi Meir says, notel achas mi bentayim. You take out one of the boards of wood and you replace it with schach. Avalo yefakfek, but yefakfek is not a solution. So the Gemara asks, Rabbi Meir, Hainu Beis Shammai. According to the interpretation you just gave of Beis Shammai, that basically only notel achas mi bentayim is a solution, that's exactly what Rabbi Meir is saying. Only notel achas mi bentayim is a solution. They both agree the issue is gezeras tikra. So how could Rabbi Meir and Beis Shammai be saying the same thing? So the Gemara answers, Hachikamer, here's what Rabbi Meir means at the end of the Mishnah. He means to say, Lo nechleku beis Shammai ubeis Hillel b'davar zeh. He just means to say that it's not a machlokas beis Shammai beis Hillel. You, Rabbi Yehuda, hold this is a machlokas beis Shammai beis Hillel. Rabbi Meir says, I hold everybody is strict. Beis Shammai and beis Hillel are strict, and they say the only solution is no talachas mi bein tayim. And the Gemara says, 1 second, Ma'ikam Ashwan. So what is this Mishnah teaching us exactly? When you drill down in the Mishnah and figure out what they're arguing about, the Chiddush seems to be, Rabbi Meir Islay Gezeras Tikra. Rabbi Meir holds of Gezeras Tikra. He holds fundamentally the boards of wood are a problem because you're not going to be able to distinguish between that and a regular house. For Rabbi Yehuda, less like Gezeras Tikra. And Rabbi Yehuda seems to hold the only issue is Tasav V'lo Min Asui. There's no issue of Gezeras Tikra. Now that we just had in the earlier Mishnah. V'ayfligu b'chadazim, that's exactly the machlokas Rabbi Meir and Rabbi Yehuda had in the earlier Mishnah. The Tanan, as we learned in the Mishnah before, Mesachachin b'nesarim divrei Rabbi Yehuda. Rabbi Yehuda says you're allowed to use boards of wood as chach. Rabbi Meir oser, and Rabbi Meir says it's forbidden. Why would we have two Mishnayos that essentially teach the exact same machlokas? And so the Gemara answers, Amar Rabbi Chia bar Abba, Amar Rabbi Yochanan. Rabbi Chia bar Abba says, in the name of Rabbi Yochanan, Reisha b'nesarim mishupan askinon. The first Mishnah is actually talking about boards of wood that have been smoothed out, they've been finished. Umishum gezeras kalim naguba. And the real reason over there has nothing to do with gezeras tikra. The issue over there is gezeras kalim. And Rashi over here explains, Amar Rabbi Chia bar Abba, Reisha lav mishum gezeras tikra iflik. In the Reisha, in that first Mishnah, they're not arguing about gezeras tikra. Ela b'nesarim she'enon b'nei arba. We're changing the case now. The case over there in that Mishnah was, it's boards of wood that are not even 4 tefachim wide. Aval meshupen hein v'chalokim, but they're slanted and they're smoothed out. They're finished, meaning uru'ui and latashmish. They're fit to be used. They're not just boards of wood. They're really like kalim. They can be used for certain uses. Umisham gezeras kalim naguba lifsol aliba de Rabbi Meir. And the reason why we're saying it's a problem is even though these are not bona fide kalim, it's a gezerah because of real kalim. Afagav the pshute kliates ninu. Even though really these are kliates without an area as a receptacle, it's called pshute kliates, straight wooden vessels. V'lo mekavlim tumah, and they're not really mekabel tumah like a normal kli. Gazarbu atu kalim ha-mekablim tumah. We're going to make a gezerah because of kalim that are mekabel tumah. In other words, this is a kli. It's just not a kli that's mekabel tumah, and that's why we're being stricter. That's why Rabbi Meir is being strict in that Mishnah. It's a gezeras kalim. But the Gemara continues, Rav Yehuda amar Rav, but according to what Rav Yehuda said in the name of Rav, we saw this earlier. It's talking about the part of the arrow that is made out of wood. So if you use the Zecharim basically they're shaped in a way where the wood is stuck into the metal. The metal has the receptacle. So in that case, that's considered good schach because again, it's pshute kliates. It's wooden vessels without an area to contain anything. It's not a container without a receptacle area. That's kosher. It's not mekabel tumah. But benekevos, if it's made the other way where you insert the metal into the wood, so there's a receiving end in the wood, it's a receptacle, it's considered a container, then it is mekabel tumah as kliates, and then it's a problem. V'lo gazar zachar matur nekevos. The point is though that Rav Yehuda Amar Rav only said it's a problem by nekevos, which are mekabel tumah. He didn't make a gezerah by zacharim because of nekevos. Apparently there's no gezeras kalim. So hachanami lo nigzar nesar meshupin atu kalim. So to here, if Rav Yehuda Amar Rav basically said you don't make a gezeras kalim, there shouldn't be a gezeras kalim in the Mishnah either. In our case, meaning when you're talking about wood, which again has the shape where it has a tashmish, it can be used. So the Gemara goes back to its original idea. Rather, you have to say the first Mishnah is talking about Gezeras Tikra, and our Mishnah right here is talking about Gezeras Tikra. And they're arguing twice, Lamali. Why do they have to argue 2 times? And the Gemara answers, Seifa Rabbi Yehuda, Dekoamar Leila Rabbi Meir. In our Mishnah over here in the Seifa, Rabbi Yehuda is saying to Rabbi Meir, Amai Kosarat B'Nesarim. Why are you saying it's prohibited by boards of wood? Mishum Gezeras Tikra, because apparently you hold of the Gezeras Tikra. And Rabbi Yehuda is telling Rabbi Meir, Hai Svar Lebeis Shammai Hu Dizlu. That idea of Gezeras Tikra, that's only an opinion of Beis Shammai. Beis Hillel lo Gazri. Beis Hillel, they don't make the Gezerah of Gezeras Tikra. V'yomer Rabbi Meir, and then Rabbi Meir responds in this Mishnah, Lo nechleku Beis Shammai, Beis Hillel b'davar zeh. Beis Shammai, Beis Hillel do not argue about this issue. And the Gemara continues, Hanicha l'Rav. This entire discussion makes sense according to Rav. The Yomer Machlokes b'sheyesh ban arba. Rav is the one that says that the Machlokes is, meaning the Machlokes Rabbi Meir and Rabbi Yehuda takes place when you have boards of wood that are 4 tefachim wide. To Rabbi Meir, it's like Gezeras Tikra. For Rabbi Yehuda, less like Gezeras Tikra, like we've been saying all along. Rabbi Meir holds of Gezeras Tikra, he's machmer, he's strict. And Rabbi Yehuda does not hold of Gezeras Tikra, and therefore he's lenient. But according to Shmuel, who says that the entire machlokas Rabbi Meir and Rabbi Yehuda is only when it's not 4 tefachim wide. But if it was 4 tefachim wide, everyone would be strict. Everyone would say pasul. So then the Gemara says, Seifa v'mai pligi, the Seifa, meaning our Mishnah, what exactly is the machlokas? And Rashi will explain exactly what the question is. And the Gemara answers, Bivitule tikra kamiflagi. According to Shmuel, you're going to have to say that the machlokas is about nullifying a roof. Again, we'll take a look at Rashi for that. Mar savar batla bahachi, or mar savar bahachi lo batla. One says it can be nullified. The other one says, with this, it cannot be nullified. And Rashi over here explains, L'Shmuel diyamar, according to Shmuel, who says, Avol yeshban arba divrei hakol psula. Shmuel is the one that says everybody agrees boards of 4 tefachim wide are a problem. So then, Seifa b'mai pligi, what's going on in our Mishnah? Havadai stam tikra b'nei arbohu. So Rashi explains, for sure, most roofs are made out of boards of wood that are at least 4 tefachim. The kamachsher Rabbi Yehuda, I'll leave it to Beis Hillel. And we see in our Mishnah that Rabbi Yehuda, according to Beis Hillel, says it's not a problem. You can use these kinds of boards of wood. So what's going on? And so the Gemara answers, Bivitule tikram, when it comes to nullifying a roof. Kilomar, what the answer is as follows. It means to say, Amar loch Shmuel, Shmuel will say to you, Liolam b'shiyesh bohen arba. Really, we're talking over here, really in a situation where it is 4 tefachim wide. V'lo haisa kan tikra mitchila. If you have a situation where the boards of wood are 4 tefachim wide and there was no roof here originally, v'achshavu bo l'sakech bu l'shem sukkah. And now this guy wants to come along and use boards of wood that are 4 tefachim wide as a sukkah. So afilu Rabbi Yehuda pasul. So in that case, that's what Shmuel was saying. Even Rabbi Yehuda would say pasul. The gazrinan misham tikra. People will be confused. We make a gezerah because of a real roof. Shelo yavo v'yeshiv tachas koros beso. Person shouldn't come and sit under the roof of his own house. V'yomer mali zeh mali chadash. A person's going to think, what's the difference in my house? What's the difference if I build it new? Aval hashta dezu tikra haisa. But now in this case, meaning in this second Mishnah, the case is slightly different. The case is where the roof was already there. And he's doing something to show that he's making it for Sukkah. In other words, the roof is present, and he's showing that he knows about Tasav Olam Asa, and he has to do something in order to do it l'shem Sukkah. It's clear in our Mishnah that the guy knows about the halacha of Tasav Olam Asa. So that's why there's this other machlokas. So Pligi, Rabbi Yehuda, Rabbi Meir, that's why Rabbi Yehuda and Rabbi Meir are arguing in our Mishnah, is there a concern of tikra? In other words, normally by boards that are 4 tefachim wide, everyone agrees there's a gezeras tikra. But in this case, where you're showing that you know the halach of tasav olam asui, now we already have a machlokas. Do we still make a gezerah of the gezeras tikra? Rabbi Yehuda Sava, Rabbi Yehuda holds bitulei tikra lebeis Shammai tzarich lito mi bentayim. So he said, Rabbi Yehuda says that according to Beis Shammai, you're going to need to take out a board of wood. Tiafa gav to mochiach shabaki v'tasav olam asui, meaning even though it's clear that you know the halach of tasav olam asui, Gazri ba Beis Shammai are still strict. You can't use this board of wood. You're going to have to replace it with real schach. Beis Hillel Savri, Beis Hillel hold kevon de batla v'hochiach shatikra psula sulekol migzar. So Beis Hillel says no. Once you've nullified it and you've showed that you know that a normal tikra is pasul, there's no reason to make any gezerah, and that's why Beis Hillel, again, according to Rabbi Yehuda, that's why Beis Hillel is lenient. Rabbi Meir savar lo nechleku v'chulu, and Rabbi Meir says even stricter. There's no machlokas Beis Shammai and Beis Hillel. Even Beis Hillel is strict in this case. V'af ba gazrin, and even over here, we're going to make the gezeras tikra. And the Gemara continues with a Mishnah, Hamakara Sukkaso b'shvudin or ba'aruchos hamita. If somebody puts up on top of his sukkah metal rods or the frame of a bed, im yesh revach beinein kemosan ksheira. If you leave enough airspace, the same amount as the rods themselves, so in other words, you have a rod of metal and then the airspace that's the same size of a rod of metal, and then another rod of metal, etc., that's going to be kosher. Hachotet begadish, if you carve out a hollow space in a pile of grain, lasos lo sukkah, that's how you want to construct your sukkah. You want to create your sukkah by carving out the hollow space, and now it comes out that you're sitting under schach, ein a sukkah, that's not going to be a kosher sukkah. Rashi over here explains Hamakara Sukkasu Kemosha Noosin Shemesadrin Klunsos Tchila B'Schach V'Nosim Salalein. Rashi says this is exactly what we do. What we do is we take these metal rods on top of the sukkah, and then we put the schach, the psal, on top of that. Haruchos, and then the Mishnah said that you're using the wood, the frame of the bed, of a Gemara Mefarish to Mekavli Tumah. The Gemara is going to explain that the Aruchas Amita as well, these boards that are the frame of a bed, they're Mekavli Tumah, that's why they're problematic. In other words, if you leave like 50% airspace between every shvud, you have the airspace of a shvud, v'yiten sham apsal, and you put the schach in there, v'chein al pnei kul, you do that throughout the entire roof, that's going to be kosher. Well, the Gemara will ask, Ha'ein hakosher merub al apostle. Why is that good? It sounds like you have 50% puzzle and 50% kosher. That should not be enough. And so the Gemara says, along these exact lines, let us say that our Mishnah is a refutation of the position of Rav Huna B'rei Rav Yoshua de Itmar, because it was learned the following machlokas amoroim. Paretz ka'omen, if you have the same amount of open space as closed space. Rav Papa Amar Mutter, Rav Huna B'rei Rav Yoshua Amar Aser. Rav Papa says Mutter, and Rav Huna B'rei Rav Yoshua says Aser. So if he says Aser, so over here as well, if you're only going to leave 50% of the space for kosher schach, it should be a problem according to Rav Huna B'rei Rav Yoshua. Seems to go against the Mishnah. Rashi over here says, Paretz ka'omen linyan mechitza Shabbos itmar. This halacha paretz ka'omen, it's talking about the walls that you're constructing for the purposes of Shabbos. Mechitza shenasis bepasin ruchavin gimel v'niach bein pas lepas kimole pas and nafkale mitoras lovet. Let's say you take like boards of wood and you're creating a mechitza and you don't have lovet, so it's more than 3 tvachim apart, but you have exactly again 50% enclosed, 50% not enclosed. V'chein al pnei kula davle paretz ka'omen with the chavasach masnisin davle pasel kekasher. It's almost exactly the same. When it comes to schach in our Mishnah, you have 50% shvudin that are pasel, 50% psal, which is kosher. Here also, by the wall on Shabbos, you have 50% wall, 50% open space. So it seems that Rav Huna B'rei Rav Yoshua should say that it's a problem. And so the Gemara answers, Amar Lach Rav Huna B'rei Rav Yoshua. Rav Huna B'rei Rav Yoshua will respond, Mai Kamosan, what does it mean that you leave the exact amount of space between each shvud of the size of a shvud? It's not exact. Benichnas v'yotze, it's able to enter and exit, as Rashi over here says, Benichnas v'yotze sheyeh psal harochev kemosan yachol likones v'leitze berevach shebeintzaim. You can easily put the kosher schach, the psal, in between these shvud. And there's a little extra space so that you don't have to put it in tightly with difficulty. You can put it in with ease. The hashta havale psal shenosen sham merubal ashvud. Now it comes out that the psal actually is the majority because there's that little extra space, little extra bit of airspace, more than the size of a shvud between each shvud. V'aver yoser al shvud, you have more airspace than shvudim, so you have more kosher schach than pasel schach. That's what Rav Huna B'rei Rav Yoshua will answer, and we'll continue with this discussion in the next video on Daf Tesvav Amud Beis.